I can do things at WED without asking anybody, even my wife.
Coney Island, world's biggest barrel of
and
fun.
Anywhere else your imagination takes you.
Okay, we've done that now, Paul.
To get the whole show now, you hurry, hurry, hurry.
Anything's possible at Disneyland.
Welcome aboard the Themed Attraction Podcast, where we take you for a ride through the wonderful world of theme park design, that is. You've just set sail toward a wild-eyed adventure of discovery and discussion with theme park industry masters of the craft. I'm your skipper, Freddy Martin, and floating the river with me, as always, is theme park designer, master planner, and chief creative officer for Storyland Studios, Mel McGowan. Which way is the river taking us today, Mel?
Well, hey there, Freddy. We're on a mission today to bring into focus one of my passions, designing with purpose, with my good friend, collaborator, and mentor, Anthony Esparza. Sir Anthony is truly a seasoned expert in the art of creating unforgettable guest experiences. Throughout his career, Anthony's dedicated himself to orchestrating every facet of fun you can think of. His track record of success and award-winning creativity has left an indelible mark on experience design for SeaWorld Parks Entertainment, Nickelodeon, Paramount, the Harlem Globetrotters, Sesame Workshop, Dollywood, Mattel, and much, much more. But more importantly, he's made it his career motivation to bring laser-sighted purpose to every project he leads.
That's right, and Anthony has put his mark on so many attractions, resorts, live entertainment, events, RD&E developments, television and digital media that we found plenty to talk about in this, our second interview with the guy.
So nice. We had to do it twice, one in studio, one on the IAPA floor. So it was a no-brainer to get him back in here and actually have some nice, quiet time with Anthony.
Alrighty, folks, keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the boat, because this episode is about to leave the dock. Hit it, Sam. So, Mel, it's been a fun season of movies, and a big movie for me and some of my friends and my son especially was Dune. We saw Dune 2 and we couldn't stop talking about it. Not just the production of the film, it's a great experience in film, but we started talking about what's the deeper meaning? What is he trying to tell us? And you can really go in all kinds of directions finding the deeper meaning in a movie or a book. Who are the Harkonnens? Are they the Republicans? Are they the Democrats? Are they the Russians? Are they really just aliens? I don't know. It was just so fun to dive into these stories and try and figure out what that deeper meaning that is they're trying to tell us in those movies. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I've actually been thinking about, the box office impact of movies like, Avatar. And I just finished a documentary called Lakota Nation versus the United States, and understanding that was inspired by the real life history of the U.S. And the taking of land from the indigenous Lakota Sioux, and those meta narratives, those stories that really just stick with you and that resonate, that just don't leave. It seems like there's a power behind story, especially when it kind of causes you to think about deeper themes and significance.
Right, when you walk away with some new sort of depth of thought about a subject or a situation, it really can change you. We talk a lot about in themed entertainment. We talk a lot in the industry about how important it is within location-based entertainment to say it all begins with story. That's the refrain that we say. Well, before we start a project, it starts with story, and that's really true. But what about the importance of creating these experiences that have more to the story than just a narrative?
Well, yeah, it's definitely something that I think, when we say starting with story, it's really, again, story is not just a globally known IP or a successful, a best-selling, piece of literature or film. I think the idea of the significance of that story and the meaning and the deeper theme, that's the stuff that really sticks around to empower kind of experiences. And it really is important to be true to that essence of that theme and that story in the experiential design. And again, I know that one of the things that Anthony and I have always had in common is that idea of finding that deeper purpose and meaning, and letting people kind of experience that.
Yeah, and it's something to connect over as soon as you've defined what the purpose is. And it can guide all the way through any sort of, whether it's a themed entertainment project or just a family, what your family is planning to do for the weekend. When you understand the purpose, it becomes a lot more purposeful, shall I say. Well, how have you and Anthony along the way really connected over that?
Well, we first met when he was still at Hershend, and I had the opportunity to actually get to know and hire his son, actually, and Andrew, and really kind of train him up a little bit in the strategic storytelling aspects of the business. And I know that we just always aligned, over the decades of brain damage you get when you're applying different corporate IPs to existing attractions or existing parks and experiences. There does come a point where you're scratching for something of deeper meaning and significance. And the opportunity to do something meaningful is something that I know both of us, really kind of were drawn towards, and, had an itch that we both wanted to scratch. And, I think he was really able to discover how to actually functionally do that kind of out of necessity during his days at SeaWorld. And for me, it was the opportunity post Disney to do projects that weren't necessarily just about, the highest grossing Disney IP, but to do more soil specific, culturally relevant storytelling. So yeah, like I said, we've always really enjoyed kind of the exploration of those stories of significance.
Well, designing with purpose is our theme for today as we open up our discussion with Anthony Esparza. Anthony's currently consulting on destination and experience projects through his company, Esparza HQ, and his decades-long career with parks, resorts, and cruise lines have offered him opportunities to identify the core purpose of every project and prioritize that purpose to create real experiences that mean much more than the sum of their parts. So folks, get ready to be inspired and motivated as Mel and I explore design with purpose on our second themed attraction podcast interview with Anthony Esparza. Anthony Esparza, it's so exciting to have you on the Themed Attraction podcast again. This is your second appearance, which makes you some of the first. We've got two or three second
one
timer
of the few
clubs.
Repeat offenders. You're in league with Tony Baxter. You're in good company, my friend.
It's fun to be talking with you all.
Well, we're just thrilled to have you on. I mean, last time we talked, it was pre-pandemic. And you had just finished up time at SeaWorld, and we're moving off of the sea on the land over to the sea on the sea with Carnival Cruise Lines, which was another big step for you, I suppose.
We were at IAPA, and it's my most favorite place every year to be able to see not only friends and colleagues, but all the goodies and fun things that we get inspired by to go create with. But I had just been wrapping up, in hindsight now, sort of my last big corporate stop.
That's great.
You had no idea the fun that you would be having going into COVID, working on Zoom, reconnecting with good friends, old and new. I brought back to, as you were talking about your old landmark days and some of the folks that we work with every day now, Christian Hope and Greg Cameron, and
I'm sure many have mentioned this, but we don't stay in one place very long, it seems, between projects and companies. But, I look back fondly at all the stops that I've been able to make and feel blessed that I've been able to do these things for some really great companies. And but now I'm out there working to support our industry, and especially the next generation. So,
well, I'm going to probably say I feel like I might be too old for this, but I feel like part of that next generation, because you've definitely been a friend and a mentor, and like we talked about, going from land, sea to air, collaborating with us on Zoom. as a consultant on some of our international projects and staying busy through COVID and beyond. And what a joy and honor it's been to get to play in the sandbox with you. And again, some of your other old landmark alumni from Christian Hope and Branislav Hetzel. And that was quite a fertile soil of talent there.
That time was quite dynamic. At the time we were all just figuring it out. We a lot of us were either just out of college. Like I remember Adam Bezark was in the office next door to me, and he had just got out of SC, and I got out of UCLA, and then a lot of great designers and others came into the industry at a time when Disney was jettisoning a lot of people out of the company, and we were just forming sort of protocols. If you look at the film industry, it's very clear that there are roles and there's process. But back then, not so much. Their clients were very keen on following an architectural process, and I think we honed the skill of explaining what a storyteller does and why you should be paying us to sort of be in there, and that extra cost. And over time, we were able to explain what storytelling and themed entertainment was.
Yeah.
And it grew that company, and then, of course, jettisoned everybody in every direction. And I like to think that we were part of helping seed an industry, but by no means creating it. It was there already, and it's in its different form.
Well, I know I still spend a lot of time retelling the story and re-educating on what spatial storytelling is and why, it is worth the little bit of incremental soft cost beyond the normal A&E fees to create an experience rather than just a functional.
Well, because people, understand what story is. We've been told that from being a child. But, I like to say that we were successful. I mean, looking back 30 years or so, going from this, here's what storytelling means. Here's what the process is. Here's the people who do it. Here's why you need to pay us. And here's, how it's going to help you and get a return. I think the industry's figured that out. It's commonplace to a certain degree that a client can accept. There's enough clients that accept it, get it, and are coming back to it for more. But now I've been having fun engaging the industry a little bit more to say, okay, check, we've got that. There's some that are better at it than others, but we kind of got everybody to that place where there's roles and there's processes, and we've got organizations like the Themed Entertainment Association, or TEA, and we're kind of there. So what's next? What because us as an industry, we never sit still.
That's right.
One piece of paper every time, or at least that's what makes us happy. And so I kind of know that we're a ripe industry to be able to go to another level, and that's what's exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, and you've seen those levels sort of change as a young person beginning in it, and with each new job and each new role, you've been able to layer that one on top of another until it's become sort of a philosophy of storytelling.
Yeah. What I just learned is, and it only works in hindsight. So, you guys, you youngsters are in that process. But, when I look back, I wish I had more confidence in understanding my role in the world of themed entertainment, because when you're first starting, it's hard to get that confidence, and it's hard to get that knowledge. It's hard to get that experience, and sort of even to break in for many people. And once you're in, what do you know? You're just the new guy, right?
Right.
And so, when I was the new guy right out of college, I had my models, and college had filled me with this whole idea that go get the big job. And the reality was, go get the little job. I started as a model builder back before computers. What does that say? And I didn't think I had much influence. In fact, I was very frustrated by being thrust into having to build models.
Right.
But looking back, it was the right thing for me to begin a career doing what I do, because now I look at it as like I've got a toolbox with lots of tools and crayons and different types of things in there, all from the different stages of my career as I went through. So building, models, what I didn't know then, what I appreciate now is it was a great opportunity for a new guy, because every designer and every design and drawing that this great company cooked up had to go through us.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the designers like Eddie Sato and different guys would come down who were great at what they were doing, but wanted to check how it was really working. And so little me, my job was, well, this works here, but look what happened here. This doesn't line up, and this thing is too big, and this thing's running into that thing. And then I would get the explanation of why or why not that was good. And so I just kept getting the knowledge, and that's where I learned to, like Eddie was always great at pitching. I mean, you listen to him talk and it's like, wow, there's a movie in your head.
Right.
And so I learned from him, and I learned from others who were the leaders of the company. And then I learned some mechanics, because then I had my next opportunity to be a coordinator and a project manager. And it was really tough because I consider myself a creative guy. And so the first point of my career was building models, coordinating and project managing, Excel charts and all this stuff that wasn't me. But it was my education continued out of college, and I had to learn those things to be able to later on be able to speak to both sides of the coin of developing projects in order to do well and become a leader. So I'm thankful for that time at Landmark. But, the interesting thing is then you move to other companies and you do different things, and you realize, time marches on, and you've gone from, at Landmark, we were good at being lone wolves. Every leader of a project was trying to sell his project. It was the best project, trying to get the best people on their team. And we excelled at doing that. But then, I got plucked over and had the opportunity to join Paramount Parks when it just started. And I went from agency mode to client mode.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I was forced to learn how to build a team. In fact, not just one team, but different kinds of teams. We had multiple parks. They had their own teams. We were in a corporate centralized office, sometimes categorized as the bad guy, corporate, but having to build confidence and diplomacy skills. But more importantly, I couldn't do it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to build our version of, little Walt Disney Imagineering, if you want to call it that. And we had to then work with brands. And, Viacom at the time was hot. They had MTV cooking at full speed, and Nickelodeon was doing its thing. And I felt lucky because we were that experimental place that all of these brands came to just try creating out-of-home entertainment for the first time. And so that, for instance, powered Nickelodeon into all sorts of businesses after experimenting in our little world. So, building that team was sort of that next level. I kind of compare it to, when I was a kid, my favorite toy was Major Matt Mason. And none of you probably ever heard of this. He was a space astronaut, and he had his own crew, his team, and he had this cool space station that you could pretend you're on the moon with, and he went into these voyages out to the universe and did all these different things. And it kind of was like that. At Landmark, it was just one guy wanting to go to the moon, and then it's realized you can't do that. You need a team, right? And then, after that, I had the opportunity, because they sold Paramount Parks, to go to Hershon Family Entertainment.
Yep.
And there, the mission was very similar: build a corporate entity that could connect all the different properties. They had been successful in buying and creating different theme parks and water parks and things, and they wanted a place in Atlanta to do that. So there, I learned that you don't just need a team either. You need a home base, like your space station. It's, a company with a great culture, and, it goes on. It was really something.
We'll talk about different contexts, from them Dar Hills of the Ozarks and Smokies at Herschend to, Sands of Abu Dhabi with your last SeaWorld park that you probably touched before it got executed, onto Carnival Cruise Lines, with such diverse global audiences and different contexts and storytelling media. What are the common threads that you can kind of pull together?
Well, company culture is a big part of it because, good or bad, I've had the opportunity to be either a participant or a leader in a few different companies. And it's interesting to be in a startup, if you want to call it that, with Landmark, and then a big media company with Paramount, and then a family-owned company in Herschend, and then a publicly traded company with SeaWorld. And they're all different. And this is where I learned to appreciate that platform of finding the company that fits you. They're different sizes, and because of that, they have to have different sets of rules and the way they look at creative and the way they look at funding things. And they all have their pluses and minuses. The small ones are strong culturally sometimes, but then don't have as much money. And then the big ones have big budgets, but maybe the culture is kind of struggling in certain levels, or there's time that's taken through having to navigate the waters, right? So, like what I learned at Herschend was the power of having a company that's strong in their culture, knowing who they are, what they're trying to do. And in their case, trying to bring families closer together in a real strong, wholesome kind of a way. And many times not putting the money and the profits first, and learning this unknown thing for me at that point, which was people.
Yeah, right.
We always talk about investing in people, but there was this triad. We were always trying to have tension between the guests, the employees, and the things that we were trying to accomplish. And they were on purpose. We were taught they're at tension because you can't lean one way or the other too much. They all have to work: the business, the guests, and the employees. But the employees had a pretty big sway there, and that built super loyalty and super alignment. And that was great to be able to go from Lone Ranger to I need a team to I need a company. And then, jumping from there over to SeaWorld, where we needed the guests. We had to sign them up. And I was there during a very, very tough time, as part of a team to help turn them around after their Blackfish PR issues.
Right.
And that was tricky.
Yeah, I bet. And is that back to Herschend just a little bit? Is that where you started to kind of recognize the doing things on purpose, like having that focus on the family or on the people who are working with you and for you and the guests? Is that when that started to sort of come to mind? So,
Herschend, led by Jack and Pete, had already a strong culture. Mm-hmm. When we arrived, meaning me and Joel Manby and some others, our job was to sort of don't mess it up. Right. and in fact, try to amplify it, or what Joel always called it, bottle it up. It wasn't transcribed into materials and things that could pass it along consistently as the company grew. So that's what our job was, because we were acquiring new companies like the Harlem Globetrotters and other groups, and they were based in New Jersey, and foreign to them was this whole idea. And so we had to have tools and ways to do that. And so that culture idea, looking back, allowed me to feel like I could create things that were good. And I know that's different for everybody, but for me, it aligned with my faith to a certain degree, but it aligned with just my inner person to just want to do good, positive things with the talents and the gifts that I've got, but also to see it in the people that were on my team and in the company around us. And when your company's like that already, or if the work is done to cultivate that, you've taken away 75% of the politics. You've given yourself a gift of time back, because alignment or misalignment means a lot of discussion and more debate than there has to be. And then, as a creator, that's hard enough to sell your ideas, let alone try to do something different. In our world, everything's new and never been done before. So you get to stretch a little bit further if there's trust. And if they know, I know that we're all thinking the same. And so they trust that I'm not going to create something too weird or off brand. And so, we thought and talked a lot about, well, what's good for families and what's good for kids and what's good for, so, good is, like I said, it's, I don't know if it's a topic for our industry, but I think it can be, because it's very fulfilling. Again, looking back and passing this on to the next generation, all you guys, it's like part of the issue is who's the client that comes in the door and what do they represent? What do they do? And what do they want you to do? But the other half of it is how you respond with your creative thinking, your concepts, how you can kind of tweak things in a positive way. And even if you have no influence or power, back to when I was the model builder, my first opportunity to be something else was they had said, we were growing and we had this client, Caesar's Palace, comes in the door. And we started to hit it off with them. And we just ran out of people, literally. I hate to say I was talented. They wanted me on this thing, but they said, who's next? Okay, model builder, you're up. And my job was to go every Friday to Caesar's Palace and be in their staff meetings with their construction and development group. Okay, we had gotten into their graces enough that they said, well, why don't you just join us and listen? So I was the listener and the transcriber, and the rest of our company was kind of busy. But what I was able to do was use what tools I had. So my job was to make the list, so I'd make the list. And they would talk about 20 different things, and I would try to put what I thought was good. So, for me, I didn't get as fulfilled creating the interiors of the casinos and giant slot machines and all the other things they were talking about. But I kind of thought, well, they kind of do need a new makeover on the outside of the building. They kept talking about broadening their businesses to other things like retail, and they saw some ideas around retail, and retail, let's stick that in there, which eventually turned into the forum shops and redoing a lot of stuff, taking them out of that Frank Sinatra era into this sort of new thing that they were. Remember, this was before Mirage volcanoes and all that, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And it was, well, the volcano showed up, then the forum shops, and it was a battle. Right. At that point, but it's like those little clacker balls, the ones where you hit the ball on one side and it kind of hits the one on the other side. So, I could at least push it a little.
Yeah, you could create some reactions, create some,
and then you let it. You just move on to the next thing you could possibly have influence on. So but later on, as I got to Hershend, I was at a point where I could help decide which things we were pursuing and suggest to the board how things ought to be. And it was the same idea, just larger scale, right? And so that kind of got my wheels turning a lot. And suddenly at that point, SeaWorld comes calling, and we're thrust into this really dark place. Nobody liked the company.
Right.
It was tough.
Yeah,
And
I
so
can't
it's like,
imagine.
how do you do this one? How do you turn this around? And so, we focused on things we thought were good. The rescue aspects of what we were. The company was a very strong company in all sorts of things. The public just didn't know it. And so we tried to surface those things. And what we soon realized was, the guests were coming to see shows and entertainment and watch the animals do stuff. And we said, I hate to say it, those days are kind of over, but what do? We being on the inside, it is true. You can't just let these animals go wild and free. They won't live. They won't survive the way, a killer whale born in captivity cannot just sort of free willy it out there. Okay.
Right.
So what we could do is say, okay, look, let's be a jetpack on those people that are coming. And so we knew we had kids and teachers and smart people, aquaphiles, we call them, and all these different levels of people seeking knowledge of some sort. And instead of them coming to see us, meaning we had 20,000 employees at that point, we kind of said, let's turn it around. We got 20 million guests at that point. What can an army of 20,000 employees do to activate the bigger army of 20 million? So we just, again, setting the culture a certain way and talking about it and providing the tools internally, we tried to say, look, our job is to be that jetpack on each of those types of people. And that 20 million people can go out into our world and have a positive impact, rather than us think of 20 million that need to be entertained come into our small little theme park. And so that opened up a whole bunch of really cool conversation and programs and things like that, because then marketing changed and, attraction topics changed and all of that. So that was really cool to think that way.
Did you know that the human brain is wired for story? It's why Storyland Studios places story at the heart of everything we do. Storyland Studios is a full-service experience design and strategy firm that imagines, designs, and creates story-driven experiences that lift the spirit. Inspired by the design principles of the original Walt Disney Imagineers, our award-winning team collaborates closely to provide strategic design solutions that will help bring your ideas to life. Through strategic experience design, immersive storytelling, and exceptional service, we imagine with you, design beside you, and create world-class experiences and destinations that are enjoyed by millions of guests and visitors on every habitable continent around the globe. Connect with the team at Storyland Studios to get started building your impossible dream today. Visit StorylandStudios.com or call now, 800-218-1932. That's 800-218-1932. Storyland Studios. Imagine, design, create.
Yeah, and for our Southern California locals, Sesame just got pulled out of SeaWorld. Now it's Rescue Junior. That is still getting rolled out and overlaid and letting everyone sign up to be an active, agent and steward of the seas. And it's really kind of fun to see how that's played out and is continuing to play out.
Yeah, because when you think about it now, in the role I feel I'm in now, I feel like just being a cheerleader for our industry as much as possible, and also an encourager to the next younger group coming in, is to say, okay, well, SeaWorld had 20 million guests. And I talked to John Robinette at AECom at the time, and I said, John, how many people on your AECom list of attendance stuff, how many people are our industry guests? And he was like, all of them? And it's like 500 million-ish. I'm like, wow. Okay. So meaning if all our industry thought this way, and all the design groups like Storyland and others thought this way to encourage those clients, could we tip this from being 20 million to 500 million? And so, I always kind of joke around. It's like, okay, it's creative guys math, right? Okay, so there's 8 billion people in this world, and you divide that by this 500 million, and it's like, well, hey, those 500 million would only need to talk to like 15 or 16 people to kind of affect the world, right?
Exactly.
And then of course, my counterparts was like, well, what about season pass holders, and what about repeat business? And it's like, okay, we'll double it to 30. Okay. and you go, all right, can we inspire a set of guests to just word of mouth, talk positively, talk about, all the cool things that creators can do and for their kids, to 30 people? And I'm like, sounds doable. Now, our industry doesn't necessarily hit every little corner of the world, but you get the concept of it. There's pretty big impact. So I kind of feel like, challenge to our industry and say, all right, we've spent the last 30 years teaching storytelling and the protocols and positions and all this kind of stuff. How about we say our next crayon for us in our little toolbox is to try to create things for good that are good. I'm just going to leave it uninterpreted what that means, because I know a lot of people work for companies that are kind of, I'm not sure, is that considered good?
Right.
That's up to you. But can we do something positive with these gifts of our companies? And can we create a new deliverable? I kind of just put it very bluntly. It's like, look, you all put deliverables on your proposals. There's services and deliverables. Add one. It's called whatever documents you need to create that purpose. So, okay, here's my blueprints, and here's my scripts, and here's my media, here's my map on how purpose finds its way into this concept. And, what I found is a lot of people go, I don't even know what you're talking about. What does purpose mean? What is that? And what I'm saying is, you can decide what helps make a project good. So back to your question, long detour to Hershon. At Hershon, we learned this tool by just doing something very simply. We had an area that was tired and it just needed some work. It was on a little waterfront, and we ended up calling it Fireman's Landing. And right before that, we had created something similar called Outlaw Run. It's a great roller coaster. And each of those had a purpose embedded in it. The Outlaw Run was to celebrate the sheriff in town, right? And in the brand was things like "Good guys always win," and all these sayings of the time. And we celebrated law enforcement and the military and all those things that resonate for that part of the world. Okay. Fireman's Landing, we repeated that. And instead of saying we're going to support firemen, we said we're going to support the volunteer in all of us, because, back then it was volunteer firemen, because this is an 1880s mining.
Yes.
Is our story, right? So volunteerism was our big purpose. So it's these themes that went into all the merchandise, went into the marketing, went into the talk. We brought community participants in on opening days, and it just, when you do this, it creates this platform for creativity to go activate. And what it's not is just giving a part of your profits to the Fireman Fund.
Yeah, right.
Okay. It's not just, okay, well, we do that. We have a charity that we give. It's not that. It's this activation of what we do as an industry that's unique and what only we can do, which is create these experiences. But we're doing it, keeping in mind, we're talking to kids, talking to teachers, talking to moms and dads, talking to experts, whatever it is, in their language, to go. Remember, we got to get that army, 500,000, 500 million out there. So get them something to talk about, to say, to do, and then you're changing the world.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not just creating experiences, you're creating culture. It goes back to the maxim that story, it has the potential to form who we are individually and as a shared culture, shared society, and then to transform. It's really down to the core innate power of story.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's the hard part, because, speaking to you, that means, okay, am I going to talk to my client about this topic? Do I have to have a couple of tools and decks and whatever dances I have to explain why? And it's just like storytelling back in the early days. We had to explain why and why they should pay for it and why they should hire us. And now it's the same thing all over again. Why do I need to do this? Why should I do this? How does it get done? So it means partners, and it means new tools and new people and new talents to add that deliverable. So, but, in the end, it's very fulfilling. I think today's world is receptive to doing things with purpose or meaning. Today's younger generation, I think, really resonates with that more than we think. And this addresses it right down the middle. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So many charities, when you see a charity sells a t-shirt for $40 or something like that, it engages that user to not just buy a t-shirt that they feel like they spent some money on something that looks good on them for that experience. They're doing it because they know they're helping in a certain way.
Right.
And if that becomes their purpose for purchasing, that's a much greater purchase than just, hey, I need a shirt or I need a fun day.
But this is where the challenge of our industry, or to our industry, is very unique in that only I think we as an industry can respond, because we're the industry that has architecture and film and media and digital. And I mean, everything is our industry, right? So there's no industry that has that. So that t-shirt, yeah, we sold the t-shirt and it got them thinking about whatever it's on the shirt, but can they effuse what it's about?
Right.
Like the volunteer idea, or, we did this for Mako, a roller coaster, right? And it's like, well, what can you do in a roller coaster? It's like, well, we could sell the shirt, but what we taught you through all this, and it was very simple message, which was Jaws really messed up everyone's minds.
Yeah.
That when that came out, love for sharks took a left turn.
Yeah, a lot of hate for sharks out there.
Right? And so it's like, okay, challenge accepted. How do we take the one thing that everybody just goes, sharks? How can I love that? I love sloths. I love flamingos. I love, something cute. Sharks. Okay. And we explained a bunch of things that maybe you didn't know. How they got caught in bycatch, and shark finning is not a good thing, and all that stuff, and it was a good lesson, and that it works even in the toughest conceptual areas,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for kind of working us through that journey and focusing on purpose. What are we here for? What are we doing with our work if it's not to improve people's lives, and in a lot of different ways, not just what they receive, but what they give.
Yeah, it's really great to give, but there's sort of this unintended, well, I don't know if it's unintended or not, but there's a great thing that happens when you do it. And you have a smile on your face that's bigger, and you go to bed more fulfilled. And, and this kind of was, maybe echoes my last stop with Carnival, because, their whole mantra is choose fun.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's weird because it's just like, well, isn't that the most generic thing you could ever think of? in our industry.
or hedonistic. It's kind of like the
Right.
opposite of
But
selflessness.
when you get into the company, you're like, there was this saying one of the people there would always mention, and everybody was aware of it, which was, it's like, an Eskimo has 20 words for the word snow, because in their world, there's all different dimensions of it. There's mushy snow, there's hard snow, there's ice, there's this, there's that, there's all these different things. And their life depended on being able to communicate that the right way. And so for them, they had that with the word fun. Like, to us outsiders, it's like fun, generic, one word. So inside, when you're on the inside, it's sliced and diced and looked at age groups and levels and experiences. And
Packed with meaning.
Took that idea of a platform of a company culture to this next level of deep understanding and being strong on one simple thing. And that was to create fun. And for us working people, it brought joy to our lives by doing it. And so that's what I'm saying is, okay, well, if you're asking, well, why should I do this? Is because you want joy in your life and you want to celebrate that with your family and your friends. And it solves a whole bunch of bad stuff in a sick company culture or in an unmotivated team or even your personal life in work. If you can kind of do that, whether it's a small little move or something big where you have influence. So I think we can do this.
I know one of your superpowers is quite the gift of, from a natural personality and leadership and cultural leadership, is that gift of facilitating kind of a consensus. I know a lot of our clients really, it's not just about the craziest idea or the most beautiful drawing. So often with so many different stakeholders, and it's just so important to hear well, to ask the right questions, and to get an alignment in shared vision and purpose and values. Are there any kind of things you can give away in terms of your methodology, or is it just a natural gifting? How do you land the plane on that consensus?
Well, I guess you included one of the big words was listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As creators, we get excited to see our ideas get done and get built or get hired or something positive. And sometimes our ideas aren't the ones that survive or need to survive. And that's where having a stronger company culture and a team and sharing and those kinds of things and being comfortable in your own skin and who you are to relinquish being the final word or being the final idea in search of the one that has the strongest purpose or design or whatever it is your challenge to create. This talent we all have to conjure out of nothing is a gift. And so it can go away. And I can tell you it does to a certain extent. When I stepped away from being a leader day to day, you go through these gyrations of, well, what do I do now? And I can tell you the part that stays with you is the part to help motivate people and have fun and to help them grow and do all those things that you wish somebody would have done and held their hand all the way through. So just do it now.
Yeah.
Don't wait. So
that's awesome. Well, that's a great spot to end it on, folks. Just do it. That is a new phrase from the Themed Attraction podcast. Nobody's ever used that one before. Just have purpose.
Well, before we go, Freddie, though, I got to give a plug because Anthony and I have had the joy of kind of cooking up this special gathering over the last, I think we were guessing it's been 7 years or so at the annual International IAPA event. Thanks for joining me on that journey of creating that International Prayer Breakfast gathering. Yeah, it's been amazing from just a handful of us. It felt like a weird little back room when we first started, and it's grown into quite a thing.
Yeah, you're referring to the annual IAPA prayer breakfast that we started with this very small group that now has. It's amazing to see the number of leaders in the room and the number of people, not just seeking God, but seeking to do good.
Yeah.
Because it's a mix of people in the room. It's not any one particular religion or so. It's basically a bunch of people who've heard about it and felt like they wanted to hear more and be fed and motivated to hear this kind of thing and what they can do in their lives. So
what strikes me is so much of IAP, especially in, business conferencing, is this economy of networking, which is, hey, your eyes go right to the name tag. Okay, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? Right. You're selling, you're buying, whatever. And it's just such a welcome relief because it genuinely feels like, hey, let's take a break from all that.
The agenda-less room.
Yeah, exactly. Let's actually create some time and space to just chill, kind of start some new friendships and relationships and see where these conversations go. It's just such a different change of pace. Yeah. Thanks for all the heavy lifting on that.
Wow. And I know you shared credit with me on starting it, but it was really your phone call to me to say, "Do you think you ought to do this?" And all I did was say, "Yes."
All I just says, "Make it so." Number one, you pulled it off, my friend.
Well, you guys, I wish you the best of luck. You guys are knocking it out of the park, and love seeing the growth. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way you're kind of got your hand on the guiding tiller of the ship there, and I encourage a lot of others in the industry to do the same. So,
well, thanks for your ongoing mentorship. You've been my 1-800 call a therapist number. As we've done our crazy growth trajectory from whatever to 150 or so and counting. So it's been a crazy e-ticket ride, a holy roller coaster ride, and you've been a great Sherpa for the journey. So really appreciate that, my friend.
My pleasure.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, guys. Wow. It sounds like so much fun. At the end of the interview, Anthony was talking about how great it was to really focus his teams on the inspiration, the purpose, and the fun at the same time, and not get bogged down in all of the deadlines and things that have to be done, but still trying to be inspirational and fun. It seems like it would be so much fun to be on those teams with him.
I couldn't agree more. It is something to work under healthy leaders that understand the value of culture and the architecture and design of culture and the intentionality behind it. And I know I'm still working along folks that have been trained and mentored by Anthony, folks like Kat Harrington. And it's really awesome to see how he's been able to impart those values and that DNA in some of the folks he's raised up over the years.
That's awesome. Well, Mel, our leaky tiki is starting to poop out again. What do you say we turn her towards home?
Sounds like a really good idea.
All right. Until next time. Thanks, Mel. The Themed Attraction podcast is hosted by Freddy Martin and Mel McGowan. I hope you know how much you mean to us. We're so grateful every time you tune in to the Themed Attraction podcast. It means so much. Would you mind helping us out a bit and leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify? That really helps the others find the show. We want to thank our special guest, Anthony Esparza. Connect with Anthony at esparzahq.com or shake hands with him on LinkedIn. Get access to new shows, stories, and interviews at themedattraction.com. Start your own profile, discuss the latest advancements, and interact with your fellow theme park designers around the world. Follow the action on Instagram and X at Themed Attraction and join our active discussion group on LinkedIn. Connect with Mel by email via mel@storylandstudios.com or follow him on X at Mel McGowan and Instagram at Visioneer. You can find me at freddymartin.net and follow my adventures at Skipper Freddy on Instagram and X. Our theme music was composed by Rob Watson, other music provided by The Lost Dogs. This episode was designed and produced by the one and only Dr. Barry Hill. Barry is the publisher of Rivershore Press, maker of fine, absolutely beautiful books on parks and design. He's also the host of America's Disneylands, a podcast on the history of regional theme parks. Check out all the fun stories and history at americasdisneylands.com and find great books to read at rivershorepress.com. You know, Mel, Barry never fails to surprise me with his stories of far-off lands. He just returned from a safari in Ireland where he claims to have discovered a species of large and dangerous water-dwelling Irish mammals that nearly capsized his skiff. What are they called? I asked him. Hippopotamus. Thanks for listening, folks. Hippopotamus. Hippopotamus. Hippopotamus.